Some of the accidents you just saw are accidents you weren't supposed to see, much less have happened. That's why in this video, you'll see 5 real plane disasters you were never supposed to see. We'll start by looking at an accident in Asia, where a plane froze mid-flight and crashed to Earth. We're talking about National Flight 102. Seconds after takeoff, a Boeing 747 cargo aircraft suddenly pitches straight up, loses control, and crashes back to the ground in a massive fireball. The entire accident is captured on video. Today, cargo loading rules, restraint systems, and weight control procedures are far stricter because of what happened in those few terrifying seconds in Afghanistan. This is the accident that exposed how cargo can be just as deadly as a mechanical failure. This is National Airlines Flight 102. On April 29, 2013, National Airlines Flight 102 departs Bagram Air Base, Afghanistan, bound for Dubai. The aircraft is a Boeing 747-400F, carrying heavy military vehicles and equipment. Shortly after liftoff, the aircraft climbs steeply. Airspeed rapidly decays. The nose pitches uncontrollably upward. Within seconds, the aircraft stalls, rolls to the side, and crashes back onto the runway area. All 7 crew members are killed. There is no Mayday call. The loss of control is immediate and irreversible. The investigation reveals the true cause was cargo shift. Several extremely heavy vehicles were not properly restrained. During takeoff, cargo broke free. It surged toward the rear of the aircraft. The center of gravity moved violently aft. This sudden shift caused extreme nose-up pitch, loss of elevator authority, and unrecoverable aerodynamic stall. The aircraft itself was mechanically sound. The crew had no time or tools to correct what happened. The failure was not in the cockpit, it was in cargo loading discipline. After Flight 102, major changes followed. Stricter cargo restraint standards worldwide, improved loadmaster training requirements, mandatory verification of tie-down strength, enhanced oversight for military and contract cargo flights. Cargo operations were no longer treated as lower risk than passenger flights. National Airlines Flight 102 proved a critical truth. An airplane's balance is as important as its engines. The crew did nothing wrong. The aircraft was capable of flight. But when cargo breaks free, physics takes control, and pilots lose it. Today, every heavy cargo flight carries the legacy of Flight 102, reminding aviation that what's inside the aircraft can be just as dangerous as anything outside it. Because in aviation, if the load isn't secure, the flight never truly is. But if you think this accident was terrifying, the next one was a terrorist attack, when a plane mistakenly flew into a war zone and was hit by a ground-based missile, killing everyone on board. I present to you Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. At 33,000 feet, with no warning and no technical failure, Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was destroyed in midair. There was no Mayday call, no emergency maneuver. The aircraft simply vanished from radar. Today, commercial flights no longer cross certain regions of the world because of what happened in those few seconds over eastern Ukraine. This is the accident that forced aviation to admit one hard truth. Approved airspace is not always safe airspace. On July 17, 2014, Flight MM17 departed Amsterdam bound for Kuala Lumpur. The aircraft, a Boeing 777, was operating normally. Experienced crew, calm weather, stable cruise. As it crossed eastern Ukraine, the region was already affected by armed conflict on the ground. Without any warning to the cockpit, a surface-to-air missile detonated near the aircraft. The explosion tore through the cockpit and forward fuselage. The aircraft broke apart instantly, scattering wreckage across miles of countryside. All 298 passengers and crew were killed. The investigation quickly ruled out mechanical failure, Pilot error, weather. International investigators concluded MH17 was shot down by a BUK missile system. The missile originated from Russian military stock and was fired from territory controlled by separatist forces. The aircraft was flying legally on an approved route at an approved altitude. The tragedy exposed a critical failure. Civil aviation was relying on political decisions instead of real-time risk assessment. After MH17, aviation safety changed worldwide. Airlines stopped relying solely on official airspace approvals. Dedicated conflict zone risk teams were created. Flight paths over unstable regions were aggressively rerouted. Regulators improved global coordination on airspace closures. Flying over conflict zones was no longer considered acceptable risk. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 proved that a flight can be perfectly operated and still be destroyed by decisions made far from the cockpit. The crew did everything right. The aircraft was functioning normally. The failure was systemic. Today, every rerouted flight over conflict areas carries the silent legacy of MH17, a reminder that aviation safety does not end at the runway or the cockpit. Because after this accident, the world learned that when war exists below, no altitude is truly safe above it. But the following video you're about to see wasn't a simple accident. Due to pilot error, minutes before landing, the plane crashed on the highway. We're talking about Asiana Airlines Flight 214. In the final seconds before landing, a wide-body jet scrapes its tail on the runway, snaps apart, and spins across the tarmac in front of dozens of cameras. Passengers survive the impact, but the accident shocks the world. Today, pilot training on automation dependency and manual flying is fundamentally different because of what happened in San Francisco that day. This is the crash that exposed a dangerous gap between technology and human understanding. On July 6, 2013, Asiana Airlines Flight 214 approaches San Francisco International Airport from Seoul. The aircraft is a Boeing 777, modern and fully functional. Weather conditions are clear. Visibility is excellent. However, the crew is conducting a visual approach, with the automated landing system partially unavailable. As the aircraft descends, airspeed slowly decays. The descent rate increases. The crew believes the automation is controlling speed. In reality, it isn't. Just seconds before touchdown, the pilots realize the aircraft is too slow and too low. They attempt to recover, but it's too late. The tail strikes the seawall, the aircraft breaks apart, and debris scatters across the runway. 3 passengers are killed. Over 180 are injured. Investigators find no mechanical failure. Instead, they uncover a critical problem. The crew misunderstood the automation mode. The autothrottle was not maintaining speed. The pilots assumed it was. Manual airspeed monitoring was inadequate. Training emphasized automation use, but not automation failure awareness. The pilots were flying a complex aircraft, but lacked full confidence in manual energy management. This was not a technology failure. It was a human-automation interaction failure. After Flight 214, aviation authorities worldwide made key changes. Greater emphasis on manual flying skills, improved training on automation modes, mandatory monitoring of airspeed on approach, clearer standards for visual approaches in complex aircraft. Airlines were forced to confront a growing issue. Pilots were becoming managers of systems, not active aviators. Asiana Airlines Flight 214 didn't happen because the airplane failed. It happened because technology outpaced understanding. The aircraft worked perfectly. The weather was calm. The runway was clear. But when automation quietly stepped back, the humans didn't step forward in time. Today, every unstable approach warning, every manual flying session, and every automation briefing carries the legacy of Flight 214, reminding aviation of a simple truth. Technology can assist pilots, but it can never replace awareness. And although the following video is terrifying, the next one was recorded by a tourist when a plane crashed straight to Earth. We will talk about the accident of China Eastern Airlines Flight 5735. In seconds, a modern jet cruising at altitude dives almost vertically toward the ground, accelerating instead of recovering. There is no distress call, no sign of mechanical struggle. Radar data shows the aircraft falling at unimaginable speed. Today, cockpit access, flight data transparency, and mental health oversight are discussed very differently because of what happened on this flight. This is the crash that forced aviation to confront a deeply uncomfortable question. What if the danger comes from inside the cockpit? On March 21, 2022, China Eastern Airlines Flight MU-5735 departs Kunming for Guangzhou. The aircraft is a Boeing 737-800, a widely used and well-understood model. The flight climbs normally and cruises without incident. Then, suddenly, the aircraft enters a steep, almost vertical descent. It briefly pulls out, climbs again, then plunges a second time, even more violently. Within minutes, the aircraft impacts mountainous terrain at high speed. All 132 people on board are killed. The crash leaves almost no large wreckage, a sign of extreme impact energy. Investigators quickly rule out weather, structural failure, engine malfunction. Flight data indicates deliberate control inputs pushing the aircraft into a dive. This points away from technical failure and toward intentional cockpit actions. The investigation focuses on control inputs recorded by flight data, crew background and recent activity, security, and access to the cockpit. While official findings remain limited, authorities confirm the aircraft was intentionally forced into the descent. This was not a systems failure. It was a human one. After MU-5735, aviation authorities worldwide intensified focus on continuous mental health monitoring for pilots, strengthened peer reporting systems, enhanced cockpit oversight procedures, data transparency between airlines and regulators. The industry acknowledged that technical safety alone is not enough. China Eastern Flight MU-5735 shattered a long-standing assumption that automation and engineering could protect against every threat. This accident proved that aviation safety is also psychological. The aircraft was airworthy, the weather was clear, the systems worked. The failure happened where no sensor can fully protect us: the human mind. Today, every discussion about pilot well-being carries the silent weight of MU-5735, reminding aviation that the safest skies depend not only on machines, but on the people who command them. And finally, I want to share a video of how a plane crashed in the heart of a country, one of the most devastating in the country's history. Pakistan Airlines Flight 8303. On May 22, 2020, Pakistan International Airlines Flight 8303 was approaching Karachi after a routine flight from Lahore. The Airbus A320 had already aborted one landing attempt, and on its second approach, something was clearly wrong. Witnesses on the ground recorded the aircraft flying unusually low over residential buildings, its landing gear still not properly configured. Seconds later, the engines scraped the runway during a hard touchdown attempt. The pilots pulled the aircraft back into the air, but unseen damage had already occurred. As the A320 climbed away, both engines began to fail almost simultaneously. On cockpit recordings, the crew declared an emergency, reporting engine failure as the aircraft rapidly lost altitude. With no thrust and little time, the plane descended over a densely populated neighborhood. Multiple videos captured the final moments as the aircraft clipped rooftops and crashed into houses, erupting into a massive fireball. Of the 99 people on board, only 2 survived, along with dozens of residents on the ground who narrowly escaped. The investigation revealed a chain of critical human errors. During the initial approach, the pilots failed to properly monitor speed and altitude. Most importantly, the landing gear was extended too early and remained down while the aircraft was flying far too fast. This caused the engines to scrape the runway during the first touchdown attempt, damaging them severely. Instead of immediately recognizing the engine damage, the crew initiated a go-around without following standard procedures. The engines, already compromised, overheated and failed shortly after takeoff. At the same time, cockpit communication broke down. Warnings were missed, checklists were not completed, and critical parameters went uncorrected. Investigators also pointed to inadequate cockpit discipline and insufficient monitoring by air traffic control, which did not question the unstable approach early enough. The final report concluded that the crash was entirely preventable and highlighted systemic issues in pilot training, crew resource management, and safety oversight. Pakistan International Airlines Flight 8303 became one of the clearest examples of how a survivable situation can turn catastrophic when basic procedures are ignored. An accident where the videos showed the danger long before the crash itself.